Joe Biden just recently did a interview with CNN, pretty much talking about all the things that are on Americans' minds right now. And of course, it was full of lies coming from his side. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to be bringing receipts into this, debunking so many of these things that Biden did say in this interview. Let me preface this with this though. We all know that whenever a Democrat, it comes before MSNBC, CNN, NBC, CBS, all the mainstream media outlets, this is all pretty much choreographed. The same exact way that every single time that Biden sits down with someone live, he has to have a stupid note card to know what he needs to say. I guarantee it's a similar format to where he knows what questions he's going to get. And then there's even times where the reporter is going to coach him on how to answer that. For those of you who are more right-leaning, I apologize because there's going to be a lot of this interview in this video just to kind of give as much context as possible as to what Biden's saying. For some of you lefties, you might like it. The biggest thing though is everyone says, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. That's not what he said. This isn't what we're seeing. So I'm going to bring you some actual numbers into a few of these things that he claims are accomplishments while he has been president. The first one obviously was talking about jobs in the United States. We know this is such a blatant lie coming from Joe Biden. Let's go ahead and check out this clip right now when he is talking about those jobs.
Why should people here believe that you will succeed at creating jobs where Trump failed?
He's never succeeded in creating jobs, and I've never failed. I've created over 15 million jobs since I've been president. 15 million.
This is a number that he has consistently been saying, how he has created 15 million new jobs since he was elected president. This is bullshit. Let's pop up this chart right now. You can see how when Biden took office, there was still about 9 to 10 million jobs that had not recovered from the pandemic. And actually, it was not recovered in the middle of 2022. So this is such bullshit. And then we always see these job reports that are coming out. A lot of these jobs are government jobs. So he's just expanding the size of government and saying, look at all these awesome jobs that are being created, when really it's just government throwing a bunch of jobs in there to hyperinflate these job reports. Here's another claim that he consistently keeps talking about when we are talking about Trump. Let's check out this clip right here.
Trump is, he started off with the golden shovels,
For the groundbreaking.
For the groundbreaking, and talked about this being, the eighth wonder of the world. When has he ever done anything he said? I'm not being facetious. Think about it. He started off, he lost, other than Herbert Hoover, he's the only other president who lost more jobs than created in his 4-year term.
God, it is so painful watching this guy, just hearing him mumble, trying to figure out what the hell he's going to say next. The claim that Trump, had a net loss of jobs in his 4-year term since Herbert Hoover. This is some other bullshit that they are trying to tell you right now where, guys, we were in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs, but they're saying that that was because of Trump. So let's check out this chart right here. We can see how when Biden took office, we still had not regained all those jobs from the pandemic. This is where they keep on claiming that Trump lost more jobs than gained during his term. Whereas if we base it off of 2019, right before the pandemic hit, you can see how we were doing pretty good. And then you had that huge drop of jobs, and they're saying, oh yeah, Trump was horrible at jobs. He lost so many jobs. Was that Trump's fault, or was it the fact that we had a global pandemic? Here's one I'm actually surprised that he did say, because this one is so easily debunkable. The whole thing about inflation, where he talks about how inflation was already high when he did take office. Let's check out this clip. Bear with me. Here we go.
Well, no president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%.
All right, let's go ahead and pull up that graph and see what we can find. So when he did get into office, inflation was actually at 1.4%, and it didn't reach that 9% number until about a year and a half into his term in June of 2022. And he claims that it was high. And then they also claim all the time how, inflation's down. I'm doing such a great job. Inflation's down. Prices just aren't getting inflated as high as they were back in 2022. It's still high. And you can see that trend right there, how the majority of inflation is still trending higher than when Trump was in office. And then so famously during the Super Bowl, Biden brought in this whole topic about shrinkflation, grocery prices. It has nothing to do with the fact that the government's printing all this money and regulating the living shit out of all these corporations. Let's check out this clip right here.
What about, but there's real pain. Grocery prices are up 30%, more than 30% since the beginning of the pandemic. And people are spending more on food and groceries than they have at any time really in the past 30 years. That's a real day-to-day pain that people
No,
feel.
it really is, and it's real. But the fact is that if you take a look at what the people have, they have the money to spend. It angers them and angers me that you have to spend more. For example, the whole idea of this notion that Senator Casey talked about, shrinkflation. I think it's on your
Same
program.
price for a smaller bottle of
Yeah,
juice
well,
or something.
for example, Snickers bar, they did a thing, and it's like 20% less for the same price. That's corporate greed. That's corporate greed. And we've got to deal with it, and that's what I'm working on.
This jackass, talking about how, people have money to spend. It's okay that they're spending so much more on groceries. So instead of taking a vacation with your family or being able to save that money, you're putting it toward food and groceries. So it's okay though. You have the money in order to pay for the high inflation of food and groceries that we are currently seeing. But this shrinkflation thing, this is not corporate greed, all right? Like I said, because of the cost to produce these products, and then also all the regulations that Biden has been putting into place on these companies, they are having to raise their prices. The whole shrinking, I hate this. I remember Costco. First time I went to Costco, I saw that I used to buy those Idaho Spuds. All I have to do is pour water in, boil it, and all that shit or whatever. I was like, what the hell? I used to get like 15 of them. Now I'm only getting 9. This is bullshit. It's just these companies who are trying to survive without having to hyperinflate their prices. So the shrinkflation, I don't agree with it, but at the same time, I understand why they are doing it. When you raise the cost to create goods, that is going to be passed down to the consumer. It is not corporate greed. It costs them more to make that product. Real quick, guys, I will get back into this conversation, but first things first, if you do love this content or if you do want to follow along, kind of see what I ramble about in any future events to come, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, maybe give me a thumbs up, notification bell, that way you're notified every single time that I put out a new video. Let's get back to this topic right now. This is a new one that recently has happened with Biden withholding from Israel in regards to Rafah. Let's check out this clip right here.
Thing happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem.
Listen, here's what it is. War is ugly. And I'm also going to say that the majority of this stuff that he's talking about in regards to, the pictures that the Hamas is sending out or the number of fatalities that are there, those are Hamas numbers that are coming out. So how can we believe one side and not the other in regards to the number of casualties during this war? Secondly, I'm pretty sure someone recently who occupied the presidency was impeached over something like this, something about a quid pro quo or something like that from holding funding from Ukraine. So according to Democrats, this is an impeachable offense. Now Republicans are going to impeach him because they're trying to keep the waters as calm as possible leading up into election. But he's doing the exact same thing that they impeached Trump over when he withheld funds from Ukraine. And all the talk of the town has been about these campus protests. Biden has not actually condemned them. He keeps on trying to use a word salad to try and describe what it is, freedom of speech and this and that. And he has all the likes of, The View and all of his mainstream media pretty much saying the same exact thing. They're exercising their First Amendment rights. Let's see what he says about this.
And obviously, we've seen that frustration here in the U.S. on college campuses. And Mr. President, I had signs at college campuses. Some say Genocide Joe. Any of us that have gone to those campuses, sometimes we hear that chant. Do you hear the message of those young Americans?
Absolutely, I hear the message. Look, two things. First of all, there's a legitimate right to free speech and protest. There's a legitimate right to do that, and they have a right to do that. There's not a legitimate right to use hate speech. There's not a legitimate right to threaten Jewish students. There's not a legitimate right to block people access to class.
Hate speech and keeping Jewish students from going to class, I feel like, is the least of our worries right now. Is with all the violence that we are seeing. There was just that drone footage that was released about teaching protesters how to combat Pete's, defacing World War I monuments, burning the American flag. This has little to do with Palestine and everything to do with people who actually hate America. We need to make sure that we weed this out. The people who are getting hired to go in and agitate these college students to manipulate them into thinking one thing when really they have no freaking clue what they are protesting. This needs to be weeded out. He needs to stand strong to make sure that this does not grow.
The idea that we're in a situation where things are so bad, the folks that, I mean, we've created more jobs. We're in a situation where people have access to good paying jobs. And the last I saw, the combination of the inflation, the cost of inflation, all those things, that's really worrisome to people with good reason. That's why I'm working very hard to bring the cost of rentals down, to increase the number of homes that are available.
Again, talking about those job numbers, lying again about that, but the last portion of the clip is what really bothered me because he says how he's going to do what he can to keep rental prices down, to make sure that there's more homes available. What the hell does the government have to do with that? We are in a free market society. We are not a socialist society, but this is how he wants to run his administration. Listen, we have multiple rentals. We have had to increase the rent mainly due to insurance costs. Insurance is going up due to inflation. It is going up because of the government. The government cannot solve this problem because they are the ones who created it. There's only one property that we had to raise rent on, and it was because of property taxes in a blue state of Colorado. Outside of that is mainly due to insurance costs. This is why rent is going up. And this is just a little fun one because if Trump does end up winning this November, I'm going to relate back to this portion of the video where he's talking about how Trump will not accept the outcome of the election if he is not elected in November. Check out this clip right here.
Look, you can't only love your country when you win, number one. How many court cases do they have? Supreme Court cases. They all said this is totally legitimate election. This is Trump. I mean, it's saying whether he may not accept the outcome of the election. I promise you he won't.
Promise that he won't.
He won't.
So,
And which is dangerous.
So I'm going to make a prediction on that one right here. If Trump wins this November, the Democrats will not accept the outcome of the election. They are going to do everything that they can to sue, to create chaos. They are going to kick and scream and throw a tantrum if Trump is elected come this November. Mark my words, if he gets elected, it's going to happen. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you do love this content, please make sure you do like this video. Follow along if you want to see what future stuff I do decide to rant about, and I will catch you on the next one.